shifting.
So, okay, into this tightening web prestige, shaky reputation, anonymous. Have you ever known a place, maybe a community, or even just thought about one that seems absolutely perfect on the surface, shimmering with prestige, but then underneath is just churning with secrets, things waiting for the smallest tremor to, bring them all out? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the world of Tiffin Academy, Secrets and Prestige Unleashed. And this isn't just about some story. We're really looking at how a sudden, kind of dizzying jump in reputation can act like a catalyst, a powerful one, forcing everything hidden, all the uncomfortable stuff, right out into the open. So our mission today, we want to unpack that friction, that real tension between the public face and the private reality at an elite New England boarding school. We'll get into the power dynamics, which are fascinating, and explore how anonymity can be this really disruptive, sometimes shocking force. And why should you care about, a boarding school? Well, because the themes here, they're universal, right? They go way beyond those ivy walls. This story holds up a mirror to things we all experience. That deep need to belong, the constant pressure of managing how people see us, especially now, and the consequences, often painful ones that ripple out when secrets finally, maybe inevitably, get exposed. It's about the real human drama when that shiny veneer starts to crack. Okay, so let's set the scene. Tiffin Academy. It's meant to be this prestigious boarding school, right? New England, classic setting, it's move-in day. Normally that's exciting, maybe a bit nervous, but then bam, a bombshell drops. The school has suddenly, almost out of nowhere, soared to become the #2 boarding school in the entire U.S. That's not just a little bump, that's massive. A huge leap in status. So the big question is, what does that do? That kind of sudden, intense, maybe even overwhelming prestige. How does it affect everyone involved? Students, staff? Is it good, bad, both?
Oh, it's absolutely both. A real double-edged sword. And the source material makes that crystal clear right from the start. Sure, there's excitement, definitely, maybe a burst of pride sweeping through campus. But almost immediately, there's this palpable undercurrent of nervousness, a real sense collectively that this new ranking is, well, maybe somewhat unearned. The authors really lean into this. They point out known deficiencies, things like, dorms need repair, and they're pretty candid that their sports aren't winning much. So you got this huge external pat on the back, this massive validation that doesn't quite line up with the day-to-day reality inside the school.
Okay, so the outside world sees #2, but inside they know, maybe not quite.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how that external validation, that #2 spot, can almost paradoxically act as an internal destabilizer. Instead of just covering up problems, it forces the institution to kind of confront its own, its self-deceptions. It puts enormous pressure on people like Audre Robinson, the head of school, something she's caught, right? Between upholding tradition and trying desperately to live up to expectations that now feel way bigger than the school's actual capabilities.
Right, like being handed the keys to a fancy car you can't actually afford the gas for.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
So that idea that external validation can be a destabilizer, that's really interesting. It's not just about the shiny new rank, it's about the cracks it actually shows. Do you think that kind of sudden, maybe undeserved spotlight could actually be worse in the long run, compared to like a slow, steady climb? Because it feels like it forces people to perform prestige rather than genuinely build it.
I think absolutely. That pressure to maintain an image that doesn't quite fit reality, it can lead to some pretty desperate measures. Think about, a company that gets suddenly overvalued in the stock market, or a celebrity whose life gets intensely scrutinized after sudden fame. What would you do? What lengths might you go to? What truths might you kind of bend or just hide completely to keep up appearances under that kind of intense, maybe unearned spotlight?
Yeah.
A huge internal conflict, isn't it? How much do you compromise your integrity to protect this fragile public image?
That's such a critical question, and it really sets the stage perfectly for what comes next, right? So the school's already feeling shaky, teetering between this new reputation and its actual reality. And then, throwing a match into that whole situation, this anonymous app, Zip Zap, just appears on campus. What kind of chaos does that unleash?
Oh, chaos is putting it mildly. What's really compelling about Zip Zap isn't just that it, spreads rumors. It fundamentally democratizes the power of exposure. It makes that tension, the one between public image and private truth, it makes it explicit, an unforgiving battleground. And anonymity is both the shield and the sword.
Wow.
People start getting messages, rumors, secrets about classmates, about faculty, everyone. Suddenly, the usual gatekeepers of information, the administration, the popular kids, the established hierarchies, they lose control. The private becomes undeniably public. And that power shift, from the people in charge to basically anyone with a phone, it completely rewires the school's social DNA.
It's like a social media truth serum, but with zero accountability. The critique called it a catalyst, and that feels so right. It's not just showing secrets, it's actively creating new dynamics, new pressures. It leads straight to fear and damage when private lives become public. It makes you wonder, how would an app like that change the dynamics of any community? Especially one where reputation is everything. I mean, the trust would just evaporate, right?
Yeah.
Instantly.
Instantly, yeah. Imagine the paranoia. Who sent that? Is it true? Who can I even trust anymore? Power shifts completely away from official authority or social capital towards anyone with a secret and a way to share it anonymously. It's a very modern twist on an old problem, but the feedback loop is just so much faster now. Anonymity, it can be liberating. For people who felt voiceless, maybe it allows them to speak up without fear. But it can also be utterly devastating when that power isn't used for truth, but for malice. Exposing vulnerabilities, deep secrets just to hurt someone. It creates this feeling that the ground beneath your feet is constantly shifting.
So, okay, into this tightening web prestige, shaky reputation, anonymous exposure, we meet the characters. Who are the key players caught up in all this?
Well, there's a really interesting mix. Their lives all get tangled up in this tension. First, there's Charley Hicks. She's the new transfer student, described as bookish, and she's really trying to keep to herself. She's the classic outsider, right? Thrown into this high-stakes world where she doesn't know the rules and the stakes feel incredibly high.
Trying to navigate this alien, maybe even hostile environment.
Precisely. Then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, maybe. Davi Banerjee. She's the influencer queen bee student. On the surface, Davi has it all, right? Popularity, social power, the perfect Instagram. But the source quickly shows she has her own hidden struggles. Her perfect facade is just that, a facade, carefully built. What's compelling about Davi is how her public image is both her greatest strength and her biggest weakness once Zip Zap arrives. The higher you climb.
The harder you fall.
Yeah.
And the more you have to lose. But it's not just the students tangled up in this, is it? If we look at the bigger picture, the authority and power dynamics. Power isn't always obvious. It runs deeper, includes the staff too.
Exactly. That adds another whole layer of complexity. We meet staff like Simone Bergeron. She's a new young history teacher, described as charismatic, dynamic. Students like her. But she also has vulnerabilities and secrets that can be blown open by this app. And then there's Cordelia Spooner, the director of admissions. Think about that power. She literally shapes which students get in. That's huge influence and pressure, not just on the students, but on their families too.
Right.
So every character, really, regardless of their role or status, whether it's dealing with deep grief, secret relationships, hidden ambitions, maybe past missteps, everyone is guarding something. If the school becomes this microcosm where everyone has something to protect, and Zip Zap is the thing trying to just rip all that protection away.
Wow, the internal conflicts must be huge. Trying to keep up the public role, the image, while your private life is just about to explode. Who do you find yourself connecting with more in that kind of pressure cooker? The outsider, Charley, trying to stay detached, or someone like Davi at the top, scared of losing everything, I think.
Yeah, I think I lean towards Charley. There's a kind of quiet strength in trying to stay separate when everything's chaos.
That's understandable. The outsider view gives you a unique perspective on the hypocrisy, maybe the hidden costs of all that privilege. But Davi's story is also really compelling, precisely because it challenges that idea that having it all means you're free from struggle. It shows that the weight of being that queen bee, that influencer, can be its own kind of prison. Both perspectives offer really deep insights, I think. They force you to consider what it really means to belong, or maybe what it means to stand apart.
So this isn't just drama for drama's sake. It's digging into some really powerful, resonant themes that go way beyond Tiffin's gates.
Yeah.
What are the core ideas this story is really grappling with? Well, at its heart, it's definitely a deep look at privilege and reputation. What people will do or hide to maintain the appearance of prestige in that kind of elite world. It really pulls back the curtain on the illusion of perfection. But it also gets into the raw, visceral impact of secrets and exposure, especially when it's fueled by the anonymity Zip Zap provides. What's really insightful is how the story shows that in these privileged places, the consequences of exposure are often amplified, not just for the person, but for the whole carefully curated ecosystem around them.
Right, the families, the school's image.
Exactly. And through Charley, the outsider, we really confront belonging outsider status, the emotional cost of being the outsider, and that complex, often painful question of what it takes to belong or resist belonging in such an exclusive hierarchical place. Maybe sometimes the real strength is in refusing to play the game.
What seems really interesting, too, is a collaboration between the authors, Elin Hilderbrand and Shelby Cunningham. How does that partnership help capture what boarding school life feels like now?
Yeah, that co-authorship seems key. Hilderbrand is known for crafting these compelling stories about communities, relationships, while Cunningham, having attended boarding school herself, brings that authentic, contemporary perspective. So together, they can really capture what boarding school life feels like now, integrating things like social media, apps, peer pressure in a way that feels totally current.
So it feels lived in, not just observed.
Right. And importantly, this isn't just YA, Even though many characters are students, the themes get dark. They tackle serious, mature issues, grief, mental health, relationships across boundaries, and they treat them with real weight. It ends up being this nuanced, complex look at the pressures young people face today, even, or maybe especially, in privileged environments where keeping up appearances is everything.
So it's not just teenage angst, it's about very adult pressures playing out in this intense, contained setting. How do these themes connect to challenges people face, everywhere in our super connected digital world? It's not just boarding school kids dealing with online judgment. It feels like everyone is.
Absolutely. The issues of managing your reputation online, the fear that some private moment could suddenly go public, the pressure to present this flawless image, that's everywhere now. This story really holds up a mirror to the anxieties of our own lives, saturated by digital connections. It highlights how high the stakes are for everyone, whether you're a student or a CEO. Because trust is so fragile, so easily broken, and so hard to rebuild, it makes you think, what's your version of ZipZap in your life, and how do you navigate that pressure?
That's a good question. So as the school year goes on at Tiffin and the tension just keeps building, what happens? The source says pretty clearly the hidden truths come out.
They do. And as these secrets unravel, friendships are tested, really tested, in the fire of public exposure. And relationships, student-teacher get complicated. Lines get blurred. Confrontations become unavoidable. What's really insightful, though, is that it's not just about the dramatic reveal. It forces a reckoning, a deep one. The app's constant revelations force the administration, the students, and even the families to reckon with consequences. Consequences like, how much damage do secrets actually do? And what does it really mean to confront them? It becomes this exploration of accountability, both for individuals and for the community as a whole. And it looks at that often painful process of trying to rebuild or maybe accepting that some things just can't be put back together.
It's rarely neat and tidy, is it? When secrets come out so publicly, so dramatically, can individuals or communities ever really put things back exactly the way they were? Or are some relationships, some foundations of trust just fundamentally changed forever? I suspect it's often the latter. You're forced into a new, altered reality.
That's a core question the story leaves you with. And what's really interesting is that some plot threads are left unresolved by the end. Which really hints that the fallout from these exposed secrets, the power shifts, the damaged relationships, they might ripple out far beyond the end of this particular story.
Right, maybe into a sequel or just into the unwritten future of these characters' lives.
Exactly. It reminds us that some changes are permanent, and the process of healing, adapting, it's often long, messy, and incomplete. It really makes you consider what a genuine reckoning even looks like.
So we've taken a deep dive today into Tiffin Academy. We've seen how that sudden, huge jump in reputation acted as this unexpected catalyst, and how an anonymous app, ZipZap, became this powerful, disruptive force, ultimately dragging hidden truths out into the light. Truths about students, about staff, forever changing the fabric of that elite community. And this deep dive really leaves us with a compelling, maybe uncomfortable question for all of us. In a world that seems increasingly obsessed with image, with perfection, what truths do we hide, individually, collectively? And what happens when something unexpected, an app, a sudden spotlight, maybe just a moment of raw honesty, forces those truths out for everyone to see? How do we deal with the consequences then? And what kind of community, what kind of self do we manage to build in the aftermath? Something to think about.
Grab Academy by Elin Hilderbrand, now on sale, $22.95. Don't miss this chance. and build good habits and achieve remarkable results. Buy now today.
Like and subscribe for more Bookhaven podcasts.